herself and uh, just how she's migrated through all of the dreams and all of the aspirations that not only she had, but also for her kids. And Lisa, you're very active in our Kick-Ass grad group and continuing to post and keep the ladies there, which, you know, there's hundreds and hundreds of those ladies in that group. And just your continual stream of staying on the path of your soul's emergence, and just layer after layer as you've come forward has just really been inspiring. What was the tap on the shoulder, if you will, before you and I spoke? Basically, when you booked the clarity call, what was calling you?
Well, I had filed for divorce after over 30 years of marriage. And so I was in the mood for some change, to put it lightly. I knew I wanted some other changes. I needed to make some changes in my career, and I just wanted to take control of things. I think I had felt like things were happening to me for too long.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to take the reins. And so I was kind of in the perfect place when I'm not even sure how I saw it. I just saw your Bring Your Soul to Work. And there was a little seminar, I think, online. And so I went through that, and I thought, hey, this woman seems to know what she's talking about. And so I booked your clarity call, and I'm so glad I did.
Yeah, yeah. And we had the pleasure of having that call together, which doesn't always happen. I have a wonderful team of women who do these calls, and we all kind of like it's sort of like whatever shakes out on our calendars, we figure the universe is kind of lining up that person to have that divine appointment with us. And so I got to be honest with you, you know, I've had discussions with a lot of attorneys. My dad was an attorney. Attorneys sort of have their own way of thinking they got things figured out. How does how does a woman who went to law school, you went to law school a little bit later in your life, right? It was not necessarily the traditional college to law school.
Yeah, I didn't go straight to law school. I had never worked in a law office in my life, and I hadn't been around lawyers very much. And when I was in college, during my first year of college, we had a family farm, and the state decided to widen the highway right next to our farm. And they didn't want to pay my parents much at all, and just really destroyed our home by moving the highway so close to it. So my parents were not litigious people at all, but they hired an attorney, and he came in, and he looked like John Wayne. It was like he was there to save the day. He was in a BMW instead of being on a horse.
Yeah.
But he came in to my mom's kitchen and looked out the window, and he said, you know, this view is worth more than they can pay. And I was so impressed at the way he helped us.
Aww.
And we won the lawsuit, and I wanted to be like him. So that was why I went to law school. And I'm so glad I did.
Yeah, yeah. That's a really, really touching story. Wow. So when you see someone with that amount of power, right? This guy came in, he had that amount of power to preserve.
Life-changing.
Yes.
Life-changing power.
Yes. Right. And I know, and you can please elaborate on it, because I know that each client life you touch, you're their guardian angel as well. Tell us what you do as an attorney.
I'm a disability lawyer. So I help veterans and other people who are trying to get disability benefits from the Veterans Administration or from the Social Security Administration. And so for most of these people, it's a very tough process, and they need help with it. And I love doing it. When I wanted to be a lawyer, I knew I wanted to help people. And I've practiced in other areas of law where I did not feel like I was really helping the problem. I practiced in civil litigation for a while, helping one big company sue another big company, which, is not terribly rewarding a lot of times.
Yeah.
And so I kind of fell into disability law. And, my first client helped me realize how important these cases are to people. They need these benefits. And so I want to help as many people as I can get the benefits that they deserve.
Right. So you're sort of like their knight in shining armor.
Yeah, it's
Galloping into a big problem. And you've told me about a couple of the cases that you've won for your clients that were years of that person suffering without getting the proper support that they deserve.
yes. And sometimes, and I'll tell my clients, I just had a hearing this morning and I was talking to my client afterwards and I said, you did a great job and you did exactly what I needed you to do in answering the questions. And she said, well, you were fantastic and tell me if I'm going to win. And I told her what I have to tell so many clients is you should win, but I don't know if the judge is going to do the right thing.
Yeah.
But no matter what happens, I'm with you. We're not done. If we didn't get what we wanted today, we're not done. I'm going to keep fighting and I'm going to, help you as much as I possibly can.
Right. So coming back to that spirit and that heart inside of you is a powerful advocate for others, but also I think what brought you into being able to elevate yourself to the work that you really wanted to do and the level of power you wanted to have in the world to make the biggest impact, you had to be your advocate.
Yes.
And what did it take to do that?
Well, I had to decide and really just hooking up with Coach Mo Fall really elevated my game in all areas of my life. I wanted to play bigger, make more of a difference. Mm-hmm. And in talking with you after the clarity call, I thought it's time to invest in myself.
Yeah.
And so I invested. I'm so glad I did. I think I may have told you, or I told the grad group, I love posting in the grad group and I love seeing what other people are achieving and I love sharing what I'm achieving. I think we're so encouraging to each other because when you see what someone else has done, it just keeps your faith going and elevates you. So I think I posted, when I went in to ask my boss for a raise, when I finished the coaching, I went in and even before we started talking about my raise, the first thing he did was hand me a check that was for the exact amount of money I had spent on coaching. So
telegraph received.
Yeah.
How'd you get that to happen?
Like, okay, this stuff does work. This is good.
Right.
And so just great things have been happening and continue to happen for me and for my family. And I'm so grateful.
Yeah. As you know, but those who haven't been through the workshop wouldn't have any idea of this. I talk about bringing your soul to work. I talk about up-leveling careers. I talk about helping women stand in their power to ask for more money, ask for raises, make sure that when they get a new job that they're asking at the compensation number that they feel they deserve in the marketplace. But what our secret sauce is, there's a couple of pieces of our secret sauce. And you've been so amazingly coachable and so quick to adapt what we teach and coach. And the first reason why women lose their power is because, like you said earlier, we live in a world where the universe, the effects, the events that happen to us happen to us, and we feel over a decade or two or three of our lives as an adult woman that so much has happened to us that we get into a victim stance and we begin to operate from a sense of anxiety, worry, fear, scarcity. And one of the terrible things about that is that the human soul cannot escape the prison of that. And so that energy of such negative emotions literally prisons the soul. And what we do first is teach everyone how to relax their nervous system so that they can start being at a place where the brain, the physiology itself, can sort of start coming to life a little bit. So there's some productivity in the body. And as you know, the next thing we do is we teach our ladies how to really focus and concentrate at a deep level. And that's what meditation does. Its very first phase, doesn't it?
Yes, and I had dabbled a little bit in meditation, and I had read some Tony Robbins and thought about EFT tapping a little bit, but I'd never really gotten into it. And going through the coaching, as you say, I am coachable.
Mm-hmm.
I love to learn, and I'm a great intaker of information. And I was at a point where I felt like things were happening to me, and I needed to take action. And so going through the coaching, I was accountable to people for learning the information and also using it.
Yes.
And so I thought, I've invested in myself. I'm going to do this. I'm going to go full out. And I'm so glad that I did. I did start meditating. I have meditated, I think I'm at 85% of the days since the first day of coaching.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And it's something that I used to think it was not in line with spirituality. And I realize through my interactions with you and the other wonderful coaches that it's straight in line with spirituality, and it's part of it, and it's an integral part of it. And so meditating can be prayer.
Yes.
And I've used it. For instance, I was talking about going into my meeting to get a raise. I meditated and focused my meditations on that for days. And before I went in, I did some tapping. And I came out of that meeting with everything I wanted and then some.
Yeah. Yeah. And you were able to then craft your destiny as an attorney, as a producing attorney, as someone who was 100% representing your cases. So it's not just about being successful in the firm. You're now on the front line with your clients in a court, needing to be awesome. And if you've got your own worries and anxieties about your paycheck or how your boss feels about you, you're bringing that into the courtroom.
Right. And I've just been performing at a much higher level. I've always connected well with my clients, but I feel like that has reached a new level. Yeah. I feel like my confidence has reached a new level. I've been doing this for a long time, so I'm confident in my abilities, but it's helped me be more confident with other attorneys, I think. And so part of what I did in the coaching was ramp up my LinkedIn profile and activity, and I am all over it, sister.
You are 100. You're like redefining networking and reaching out. I mean, you've literally created a niche for yourself so that you can help other attorneys learn how to expand their practices doing what you've done.
Right, and I've
awesome.
I've had attorneys come to me, and I had a goal to write federal court briefs for other attorneys. And so in the last year, I guess, I've had 4 big firms that have started referring me those cases. And while I still edit everything, I now have 4 writers writing for me. I had 0 before coaching. It was all me, all on my shoulders. I was working way too hard.
Exactly.
So now I'm editing for everyone and spending more time enjoying life and less time just working my fingers to the bone. So
Right.
that's been another huge takeaway for me is the realization, yes, I'm going to work hard and I'm going to do my very best and I'm going to go above and beyond, but I don't have to work so hard to achieve the levels of success that I'm going for.
Right. You know, when you work hard knowing your worth versus work hard trying to prove your worth, there's a totally different energy, isn't there?
Yes, it's completely different. It's coming from a place of I'll say it again, power,
Mhm.
versus more of a victim
Yeah.
mentality. And it's so nice to be able to know that I'm getting things done, I'm productive, I'm efficient, and I am making a difference. And I'm also able to go for a walk with my son every evening and talk to him. And I have time. My daughter's in medical school.
Mhm.
And when she went into medical school, I told myself, whenever she wants to do something with me and or see me, wants me to come over to, do her laundry or whatever, the
Yeah.
answer is yes. The
Right.
answer is yes,
Yeah.
because she's so busy.
Uh-huh.
So whenever I'm invited to do something, I always say yes to that. And so I have time now and I have the ability, if she calls me in the middle of the day and says, can you know, will you take us out to dinner tonight? We don't have any money for food. I can go over, I can slip them some cash and
Right.
take them to dinner.
Right.
I don't have to worry about, oh, I don't have time.
Right.
Uh,
Or
so
money. And I know that was one of the things that when we first met and first started the coaching, that was a big worry of yours. Your son was starting college, your daughter was going to start medical school, and you're like, yikes.
yes,
I better crank up this economic engine so that this can happen. And as it turned out, other miracles came your way to make it easier for everyone.
yes, yes. And, I've always been a positive person, but I'm that to the nth degree now,
Hmm.
because I know what happens when you raise your level. And so my children have both benefited um, from me encouraging them and meditating and praying. My daughter has a full ride to medical school, um, which is amazing, just amazing, because medical school is not cheap, as you can
Right.
imagine.
Yes.
And I make good money, but having her in medical school and then my son in college is a very, very large financial outlay. And as he applied for scholarships and I helped edit and encourage him and look around for scholarships,
Yep.
I mean, the money just started rolling in, and it's just been amazing. Um, you know, we're not, they don't have way more money than they need, but they are learning how to manage money. They're learning that it can come to you in wonderful ways. They're learning about abundance.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. How great to have two young people in the world at such a young age, bringing um, that approach to life.
Yes, yes. I feel like I'm passing down some great stuff
Yes.
that's going to affect generations.
Generation.
And I'm talking about things other than money.
Right.
If I don't leave them a dime when I'm gone, they have a wonderful inheritance already.
Yes. Yes, indeed. And I can tell how deeply impactful this is to you. And thank you for being so open with your emotions and with the passion that you have about this. I never heard the story before about that lawyer coming to your parents' family farm, but it just tells us how when we pay attention to the angels who intersect with us, that inspiration can traject all the way into our adulthood, our career choice, and that spark of inspiration can be carried and magnified over and over again. And it's, to me, that's miraculous living. When we're able to catch a spark of someone who had such beauty and generosity in their soul and was able to do a great thing for someone. And studies tell us that even if we hear a story about that, so my endorphin level has increased hearing that story. So as human beings, we don't even have to see it. All we do have to is have some imagination about experiencing it, and our endorphin levels go up. And when that happens, our brain works better. And when our brain works better, we're going to be kinder and nicer and more inspiring to the next person. And you cannot do math on this. Like the magnitude of positivity and energy that flows forth. And being a woman who's going through a divorce and maybe didn't have the career going on the right track, this could be a very different story.
Yes.
And your kids' experience could be a very different experience of their mom.
Yes. And, talking about hearing other people's stories, and that's part of why the community that you've created is so wonderful, because we can see other people having these miracles in their lives on pretty much a daily basis if we look around.
Yes.
And if we participate in the group on a regular basis, those endorphin levels, you can get them every day. It's a wonderful thing. And it's miraculous living. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
It's sort of like a greenhouse, like you're walking into this in the grad group. I feel sometimes like you're walking into this like greenhouse. What little plants are sprouting today? Yeah. And Michelle got a job. I mean, she's been kind of going through some stuff. She got a job today. I mean, just as a coach, I mean, it warms my heart, and I just feel like an even more empowered and inspired coach for the ladies who are in the current 12-week workshop when I see what's going on in the grad group. And I know that this continues to evolve and get better for each of the ladies who stay on track. One of the great blessings this year for me has been seeing you in person. We just talked about that before we started the interview. In different cities around the country, even around the world, actually, because Coach Miliana went to see one of our clients a year ago summer when she went to, not Croatia exactly, where she went to where her husband's from. And so there's all these pockets of real people who've been through the workshop getting together in different cities. And here in South Florida, we get together every couple of months for the ladies who are down here. And it just so happened that you had a business trip that same weekend or the next Monday or something like that, and you were able to fly down, and we all, I mean, I think there were 2 or 3 others who flew down to meet us here in South Florida. And it was obviously before we all experienced the pandemic this year. How cool was it to hang out? I mean, we had 15 or 20 women there at that brunch. I mean, it was a big group. I mean,
it was great. It was so great. And I was so happy because I had a hearing in Florida. Right. And I thought, the timing is off a little bit. If I could, if this hearing had just been a few days earlier, I could have gone to the brunch with Mo and the group. And then I thought, I could move my flights and go earlier, and I could go to the brunch. So mind blowing. So I ended up being able to do that, and actually saved money on my plane ticket by being able to do that, and flew down, had a wonderful time. I love Florida, and it was just a cherry on top to be able to come to brunch and meet you in person, and to see so many other people whose lives you've affected and changed for the better. That was just a great trip to be my last trip before the pandemic. I had a few others scheduled, but wasn't meant to happen.
Right. Yeah. Well, this whole global phenomenon has certainly brought those of us who have been practicing being our highest version of ourselves and staying in alignment with, as you know, the way I look at it is when we meditate, we're inviting our divine in, and we keep that spigot open, so to speak. The more we do that, the more we're able to navigate an uncertain world. And I'm really convinced that our world is uncertain forever. Like anything we pretended that was certain about our lives is no longer even a facade. Like we are having to navigate continuous uncertainty. And when we have that divinity and we know who we are in the world, that's all the certainty that we need. And to me, navigating the world with that level of faith in our divine connection and in the divine within, just that's what makes this life so great, regardless of whether it's sunny or rainy or pandemic or whatever. And the ladies I interviewed, the handful of clients, the Black women who came into my interview for the Black Women's Voices Matter, they said they navigated this whole racism thing so differently because they were prepared to be in their divinity versus in reaction mode. And I'm just like, that's exactly it. That's the human being of the current world right now. We have to be that way. How have you been navigating things, and has that been true for you?
Yes. And, the world, as you say, it is uncertain. We're not guaranteed anything. And I think, in the past, I've operated from a place of anxiety about that at times. I've always had faith, but I think that now I am able to understand that whatever happens, it'll work out. It'll work out the way it's supposed to. Everything may not be peachy keen, maybe not what I think I want, but perhaps there's someone working in the background who knows better than me what I need and what should happen. So it's a level of faith combined with confidence and a knowledge that I do have power and I can navigate whatever happens.
Right. Like throw me anything, because I'm either going to prove how strong I am to myself, or I know that that's the thing that I needed to bring myself to where I need to be. Your son just recently had a bit of an accident, and you were just sharing with me how, kind of serendipitously other events kind of led to you being able to accommodate him in a way that may not have been possible if things went the way you had planned them.
Exactly. My plan would have meant that he actually broke his arm and had to have surgery during finals for college, and then he had to finish up his classes, and so his dominant arm was broken and he couldn't do much for himself. So he ended up coming home to stay with me, and I needed to take care of him and do things for him. And if my plan had happened, we would have been in a tiny little apartment on top of each other, and that would have been extremely stressful. But because things didn't work out the way I thought they needed to or should, I am still in the family home. I have a large property. We have a large home. There's plenty of room for both of us. And so I realized, okay, maybe that's why I'm still in the house that I thought I would not be in right now. So it just worked out perfectly, and I'm so glad to be able to provide him a nice place to recover. And again, I have the time to take him to doctor's appointments or physical therapy. I can work around all of that.
Right. As you know, when you join the workshop, at the beginning of the 12 weeks, we send you a little welcome gift. And there's 4 cards in there. And one of them is the most controversial statement I've made on social media and that sort of thing. And I often have someone saying, that's not true. And that's everything always works out for me. And I've had people say that's selfish. And if it works out for me, it doesn't work out for others. And so the way of transcending the binary, I'm not saying everything always works out for me to take from the next person. That's a binary world of if I take, you get less. It's that each of us have a divine plan that's continually unfolding. And my experience in my world is always working out for me. And Lisa's world is always working out for her. And and that to me is one of the most grandest testaments of faith. When we know that the things that are unfolding for us, whether they appear to our little human eye as good, bad, wanted, unwanted, that when we truly know that everything is working out for us, which means our higher good, then we're operating in this level of faith where we're not squeezing the life out of it, trying to control everything. Right? And there's a bit of a letting go, surrender, like all of these words of, I'm not in charge of every little thing that's happened or not happening. I just am proceeding in my highest divinity self, proceeding in my highest divinity myself. And everything always works out for me. We talked a little bit about how our Christian faith and some of this newer spirituality and newer vocabulary could be confusing or could seem like it's contradicting traditional Christian faith, but it's been pretty consistent with the ladies who I've worked with, that they actually feel drawn closer to the roots of their faith with
Yes.
some things that we do. You want to speak to that for a second, if you don't mind?
Sure. I've always been a person of faith and practiced Christianity, and so I've had a great spiritual life, but learning to meditate and pray meditatively
Mhm.
and learn more about how the universe works, the physical and the divine. It
Mhm.
all dovetails with my spirituality and my religion. It all is part of the underpinning, I think, and the everything always works out for me, I think, is something that is in line with the Bible.
Yes.
And so it's funny, I'll say to my kids, I don't know how many times I've said to them, everything will work out,
Mhm.
all will be well.
Yeah.
I don't know why this is happening, but it'll be okay.
Yeah.
So I think, my nickname has become Little Sally Sunshine, uh, because I know it's going to work out.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. If you look back, it always does. So even if you're just like trying to get evidence from the past, like God's always taken you through things. So that's kind of cool to look at. In a lot of people's hearts, they want to write a book or they want to do something grander in their profession. And that was one of the early things that you told me that you wanted to do. You wanted to participate at that higher level in your profession. And of course, I'm all in on stuff like that. When I know a woman has something like that on their heart, I'm like, all right, let's get the basics going. Let's get the foundation rolling so you can free yourself up to be able to be generating that type of thing. Share with us a little bit of the news about how all that's coming, how these grand plans to be an author have come together for you.
Yes, it has come together, and I had published some things in the past, but it had been many, many years. And when I came into your workshop, that was something that I thought would speak to what I've always wanted to do. It would be useful to clients and other attorneys in my field and other practitioners in my field. And it would elevate me in
Mhm.
my field. So I had been thinking about writing a book on disability law for years and had never started it, and poked around and took a few notes, but didn't really do anything. But being in the workshop spurred me to get that book done. And I actually invested in myself to learn some ways of getting it done quickly. And so I wrote the book in about a 4-week period. And from the time I started it until it was published on Amazon as a Kindle book was probably about 8 weeks.
Wow.
And yeah, and so now I'm working on getting it out in physical form. It should be ready in July. And so that's really exciting. We're putting the finishing touches on that. I also have written a book with a co-author, a book that we wrote many years ago, and we were asked to update it by the Oxford University Press. And so that book is going to be coming out later this year. We're finishing up the edits on that. And then I was asked to participate in writing a collaborative book with several other people called The Success Code, and that's going to come out in August. So be careful what you wish for. It's raining books over here, and I have plans to write another book on disability law, starting that later this year. So I know I'll get it done.
Yeah.
And so I'm very excited about all of those things.
Yeah, that's so great. It's so great. To be a producer of content is another level of owning your magnificence and feeling that what you have to say is worthy of being in print. And so that's really another level of honoring the soul and the brilliance that God gave you. And that's, to me, that's why I'm so passionate about my work. I know that every human being put on this earth has a brilliant soul that needs to shine. And we as human beings don't come with the manual of, okay, how to open up that soul so it can shine to its greatest glory. Like, I don't know. We're not given that. For some reason, it's the most important thing in life. And it just, the last thing we tend to stumble on it when we're in pain. And it's like, please free me from this. If you were to talk to your prior self, or maybe a woman who was sort of in the same situation, Lisa, what would you say to them about what's possible in life?
Oh, everything. Just have to step out there and take action. And sometimes you just have to follow your gut. You have to let people help you. And you have to value yourself and realize, like they say on the airplanes, that we can't travel on these days, or not many of us are.
Right.
When the oxygen mask comes down, you put yours on first, because you can't help anyone else until you take care of yourself. And I think that's what I would tell myself.
Yeah. Yeah. Who has benefited from that?
Oh boy. Many of my clients, other attorneys, my staff in my office, my boss, my colleagues, my children, my sisters, my parent, everyone.
That's a big ripple effect, isn't it? Like,
it's huge, and you just don't realize it. I think a lot of times in the moment we don't realize it, but that makes me, again, think back to that lawyer many years ago. Look at that ripple effect.
Look at that. It's just, that's God's grace, like just being thrown around like confetti. And when we allow it to sprinkle us, the thing that I think is sometimes a little bit of a challenge for women is stepping into the decision to actually do something different for themselves. And it's easy for someone to listen to me or watch me and say, yeah, but Mo, you get so much out of it. If people do decide to, I could charge 10 times what I'm charging for my workshop and feel that the investment was worth it because of who I'm looking at right now in this interview. And the cool thing that I feel really blessed about is that every woman who goes through the workshop gets to participate in a sisterhood that lasts forever.
And it's such a huge benefit that, you don't even sell that in the beginning.
Maybe I should rethink that.
Yes. And I didn't realize in the beginning that I would have access to such a wonderful, encouraging, inspiring community.
Yeah.
And that's what we all need. And, nowadays we're all learning that a virtual community can be just as important as the people who are physically close to you.
Yes, indeed. Indeed. I mean, I've just been more inspired by you, Lisa. I asked for this interview because you've been so inspiring, not only when you were in the workshop, but also with the ladies who were in the grad group. And I said, you know what, I want to talk to Lisa and really have her share her story so that you can infect the world with your brilliance and your shining soul and all that's been possible that you've stepped into. You didn't have to step into it, but your soul was urging and pushing you forward. And it's just so lovely to spend time with you again and to just talk with you about how you've taken charge of your life, and everyone's a benefactor of it, like everyone.
Well, I just, all I can say is thank you. A big thank you to you and your team and all of the participants and the grads, and everyone I've gone through this process with. It's just been wonderfully life changing. I've always thought I had a great life, and now I'm just living it at an even higher level, and I am just so grateful. So thank you.
You're welcome. Well, thank you for sharing your story, and so much of it, all of it, inspiring. And I really, really appreciate it. Folks, if you're listening to Lisa's story, you're probably like, oh my God, can that really be possible? Can it really happen? There's been about 700 women, including Lisa, who've come through the workshop. And I've talked with a handful of them on these interviews. It does start with a clarity call, because look, here's the bottom line. When I talked with Lisa on her clarity call, I had to make sure there was a fit and that we could actually help her, and that the things that were not working in her career were things that we actually do fix. So that is what happens on the clarity call. And you can book that at mofall.com/give-me-clarity. And we will be certain to do that. Go ahead and book your call today so that your life can be magical, just like we heard it with Lisa. Lisa, thank you so much again for joining me. And I look forward to continuing to watch your brilliance and all of your success, and big hugs to your kids who are on their life path doing their thing. It's really just so heartwarming. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Mo. Anytime.
Thank you.